On this week's Xamarin Show, my F# gurus are back, Tim and Don, to show off all the amazing things in Fabulous, so tune in. Welcome back, everyone, to the Xamarin Show. I'm your host, James Montemagno, and today, two of my favorite people in the entire world are back for another round of Fabulous F#. My good friend Don Syme and Tim. How's it going?
Hey, James. Wonderful to be back, and always good to be on the show.
And you got your video camera working today. I'm very excited. The kids are off the calls.
I don't know what's happened. We just got perfect internet today.
As the stay at home goes on, just the internet continues to improve. So I like it. Yeah. So, And how are you, Tim?
Hi, perfect. So happy to be here.
Beautiful. We had both of you on a few weeks ago talking about Fabulous and F# development for xamarin.forms, and you're back for another round going a little bit more advanced, correct?
Yeah.
So today we're going to be not so much more advanced, but looking at more samples of how to do practical programming with Fabulous. And just to give you we went through the basics of the theory of how it works, and now you get to see building some real apps and the sort of things you might use it for.
Perfect. Now, if people didn't watch the first episode, do you want to give the 30-second elevator pitch of Fabulous?
Sure. So Fabulous is a programming framework for mobile applications using F#, and you're doing effectively mobile development in a functional style. And so the view description, you don't use XAML in quite the same way. You do these functional view descriptions. Basically the view becomes very, very simple calculation. And a lot of the complexity of using the typical MVVM models just disappear in this sort of lovely, elegant MVU style. It's great for unit testing as well. And you can catch all of that in the first show.
Perfect. And of course, I'll put links in the show notes below. All right, what do you guys got for us today?
Cool. Well, I'm going to show very quickly just one tiny little sample app, and then Timothy is going to take over and show you two really important teaching apps, the central apps you should kind of go to, and you might want to use as a template to sort of expand out. They're good visually. The first app I'm showing is not so much good visually. The other two that Timothy will be showing are really nice in that way.
Beautiful. Hey, listen, my applications, none of them are visually pleasing, so don't worry. Don't worry, it's okay.
Well, Timothy's are. They're really good stuff. It makes you really want to go in and do beautiful Xamarin apps, and that's
beautiful.
A crucial thing as well.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's go head over to your computer over here and take a look.
All right, let's share my screen over here. Yeah. Okay. So the first app I want to show actually came through Twitter this morning, and what I wanted to focus on was sort of the role that Fabulous can play in an F# developer's life. A lot of F# people are doing back-end work. Some people are doing front-end work on the web using Fable and JavaScript and the like, and some people are doing outright mobile development. But if you're a back-end developer and you've got interesting back-end sort of services you want to kind of expose, you very often need to make that mobile app to be a demo for your employers. They don't just want to know that the backend service works, but they've got to see it in an application they can actually use on their phone, and suddenly it all becomes more real. And here we have Faisal Waris, one of the great F# developer researchers around. He works at Ford Research, if I've got that correctly. And he just posted around this morning about doing an AI service using this BERT model for model question and answering. And of course, when you have this great AI kind of technologies, you really want to go and make a mobile app for it. And here we can see the mobile app in progress, where there are various questions you can ask on various topics and various text, and it's sort of, and the AI is doing the magic to kind of take a question like, in what year was Nikola Tesla born? It looks at the text, it works it out its answer, and highlights the result. And
cool.
Up above, yeah. And so this is just a fabulous app. And here's the actual BERT QA app.fs. When you go back and you've seen the first show, then a lot of this will look very, very similar. We've got messages, we've got an update function, we've got bits and pieces of view fragment down here, and we've got the ultimate view function here. We've got 2 pages. Here's our root page, and here's our query page, and we've got a stack layout, and so on. And we've got the questions, which you can see, question and answer, query text, and so on. Some of this corresponds to what you're seeing over on the right. And just to give you the link for that one, it's BertQA, F. Waris up on GitHub. And it's a small app using TensorFlow Lite BERT and xamarin.forms. Fabulous to build a demo app. And that's all I wanted to cover.
Very cool. Yeah, of course, I'll link to that in the show notes. Especially that's really cool because it's using TensorFlow Lite. So it's, combining AI into the mobile app, like you were saying, sort of this really nice, beautiful, elegant F# way of doing it. Was fabulous. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. I love that.
Cool. Great. Thanks.
All right. Let's head over to Tim. Timothy, I think you have a whole bunch of really, according to Don, you got to impress because apparently they're really fancy, awesome things that'll rock our socks off. So I'm ready.
So before to start, I would like to just do a reminder on what's a Fabulous app, what's the critical parts. So I will share my screen. So to start with Fabulous, you have a template you can use. So it's .NET New Fabulous XF app, and then you can just put the name. And if you want, you have by default it's only Android and iOS, but you can have other platforms if you want. So you have the complete list on the Fabulous documentation. So I created that app, and I just wanted to show what's the 5 key parts of a Fabulous application.
Okay.
So you have the two platforms outputs. So it's basically just a xamarin.forms app with xamarin.forms init and the load application. And in the child project, you have the application, so at the bottom. And then it runs something called the program. So the program is composed of 5 key parts. So you have the model, which is just the state of your application at one given time. So what's the really important point here is that it's a complete state of the application. You don't have states in view models left and right. You only have this one, and it's immutable. So you can't change it if you have access to it. You can only change it under specific conditions. So it removes a whole class of errors that can happen, that with side effects and other things. So after that, you have the message. So it's basically just an enum with various entries. So each messages will notify Fabulous that you want to update the state of the application, and it will let you react to it. So after those 2 types, we have the 3 functions. So we have the init function, the update function, and the view function. The init function is really here just when the application starts. You will say, here is the initial state of my application. So here we have camp 0, step 1, timer off. The update function is where you will be notified that a message has been sent. So here we have 2 parameters. So we have the message and the model, the current model of the application. And then we can do basically what's a switch statement in F#, so it's a match statement. And for each one of the entries of the messages, you can say, okay, so here, if I want to increment, I will change the state by incrementing the count. But this syntax will duplicate the value. So you won't be changing the state itself. You will create a new state that will be returned by default to Fabulous, and then it will keep that new state. And the view function is called whenever the state changes to ask you which UI you want for this particular state. So it's important to understand that contrary to most frameworks, you don't create the UI and then change it a little with bindings, with events and everything. Here you will really tell Fabulous what UI you want for that specific model. Each time it changes, and then it will be Fabulous that will do the comparison between the actual UI and the new UI you want, and do all the changes it is needed. So, and to finish, whenever the user wants to interact with the application, since you can't change the state since it's immutable, you can listen to events. So here we have a command, we have a value change on the slider, and those are functions that will call dispatch, where you will give one of the messages declared above. Is that by dispatching a message, Fabulous will call the update function to let you change the UI for the state, and then after it will call the view function. So it's different.
Yeah, I'm trying to compare it to if anyone had ever done MVVM kind of XAML based stuff. I kind of think of it as your messages up top that you're describing are sort of like, hey, these are the methods, that can be called, sort of. I mean, not all of them, but they're messages like the increment, the decrement. I sort of think of those as my commands. And then the update, that's using pattern matching. And I think, some people may be not familiar with the syntax. I'm a little bit familiar with it because my good friend Frank Kruger tries to always force me to learn F#, and I really should. But I do know some of this, which is good. And so it's kind of pattern matching over this, and says like, when increment is there, then go do this. And then you kind of, it seems like inside of your view, which is creating the UI, right? There's still the commands in there. There's still like any of the values. So it's still a xamarin.forms button or a label. So if you know those controls, you're going to still know how to sort of wire it up. It's sort of this nice pattern of, here's my messages, here's the updates of what those messages do, and then here's how I construct the UI. But what you were saying was important, I think, is like when you increment that, it doesn't mean the whole UI is recreated. It actually does that diff, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we also try to stick as close as possible to xamarin.forms, so xamarin.forms developer can easily do Fabulous. But yeah, and also an important point is that it's really all the messages that will tell you everything that will be going on in the application. You can't do something that is not described as one of the entries of the messages. So it's just by doing a quick glance at the code, just by looking at the two tags, you know the state, the shape of the state of the application, and you know all the possible actions you can take on it.
And they're very well organized too, by the way. That's one thing I really appreciate is that I look at my view models and I have stuff, it's all over the place, right? I mean, I got integer types up here, I got bools down here, I'm constructing stuff all over the place. And even from an organizational standpoint, I think we were talking about this in the unit testing. Don was saying like how it's very much like, here are the things and it's very well organized, so you can see everything. I mean, just in a few lines of code, which is really nice.
And then by default, everything is synchronous. But if you want to do, for example, asynchronous computation, you will use something called command. So here it's a bit special. Here, if you have the model, the comma here means it's a tuple. So it's both returning the state and a command. So command is something that will be executed after the update, and that may send a message by itself later. So here we can see that if I toggle on the timer, it will return the timer command. So the timer command here is an asynchronous computation. So that will sleep for 200 milliseconds and then return one of the messages. And so it's an asynchronous message. And by doing that, when I toggle the switch on, it will dispatch the timer toggled, which will call this line and execute this asynchronous method that will later return another message that will also update the app and so forth and so on. So here it's just a simple slip, but you can do pretty much anything. So you can query an API, you can access a database, you can do pretty much anything like that. So that is all. That was all the key parts of a fabulous application. So after that, you all are put in a program using this line, and then it is run with the xamarin.forms application. So okay, now we saw that all the basic parts of a fabulous application. Let's see what we can do if we want a bigger application. So here, just let me type that. So here is the fabulous contacts application. So I showed it on the last show, but let's see what it looks like. So it's basically just a contact manager application. So I don't have contacts. Let's add a new one. So let's say it's me. Up. And my favorite person. And we can use Xamarin Essentials to access the photos. Let's take that one. You can put emails, phones. Up. We can save. So okay. And so it's a contact application with multiple pages. We can have all the contacts. We can search. We can filter by favorites. We can go on the map. So it's a pretty complete application. So to do that, here's the source code that you can find on GitHub. And you can see there's multiple files. So the most important file is the app.fs. And the app.fs will we find the same key parts. We have the message, we have a model, we have an init function, and we have our update function and view function. So that's okay. And the interesting thing is that if you want to do multiple page application, it can result in a very, very large file. If you just put it all there, you might want to split it up. So to do that, for this application, I have add one file per page. So let's go to the edit page, for example, and you see that we will find the same structure with the message, model. If I scroll up a bit, we have the init, the update, and the view. So that's one thing when doing functional programming with Fabulous is that you can just use composition. So each file is its own Fabulous application that is composed in a bigger application in the app file. So we can see, in fact, that the messages of the app is composed of every single page's messages.
Okay, so it's kind of, it is truly composed. Like traditionally you'd have like all the XAML pages, all the VMLs, all the things, but it's here's every page, everything has the same structure in it, and then that very first one is defining. It's like my app is made out of all these things, and I'm going to go to those things, and then here's all the models of those things, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's really just the only thing to know. It's you just compose your application with smaller pieces instead of inheriting and doing and having things all over the place. So here the model really centralize every single state of the application in one single point.
Gotcha. One question I have really quick is, so does it use just the same standard navigation? Like, how do you perform navigation from page to page? Is that different in the MVU style?
It's a bit different, but we still rely on the available control. So here, for instance, where the application is using navigation page. The navigation page, like I said earlier, the view will always be specific to the state that is passed. So you will always describe what you want at one time, or one moment in time. So here, for instance, if I go back here, we have the navigation page with only the main page. So there is 3 screens because it's a tab page. But as soon as I click this one, my pages here will change. It will not only contain the main page, but also the detail page. So here we can see that with the option. Option means it might be there or not. So in this instance, it's there. And then Fabius will have the previous navigation page with only one page, and the new navigation page with 2 pages, and it will push the new page.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And can push new pages and everything else. We also support shell, so it's basically the same thing for you, but Fabulous handles it differently.
Very cool. Yeah, I've recently gotten into Shell. I'm all in on Shell. I'm in love with it. I love a lot of the things of how it works. I just put a new Apple with it, so that's really cool to hear. Like, that as xamarin.forms is progressing, Fabulous is progressing and adding those new features too, which is awesome.
Well, we try to stay close to Xamarin. We added support for Xamarin.forms recently, Forms 4.6 recently.
Nice.
So, yeah. What else? So if I go back to my edit page, to my detail page, sorry. One other thing I wanted to show is that how, as a Xamarin.forms developer, can I do what I do usually? So bindings, commands, and calling Xamarin Essential, for example. So here we have the view function that we have on page, and if your view is too big, you can create other functions. So here I have another function that will create everything that was in the header file. So in the header part. So here. And we have a body function that will declare everything else. So those functions don't need to be in the same place. You can put it in several files, but that you can, as the same as you compose files between them, you can compose functions between them too, to make it to split your UI if it becomes too big. And what if I want to display data? So here, for instance, the name of the contact. Usually in Xamarin.forms, I will use a binding, but here instead, I will have my contact passed as a parameter, and I will simply say, okay, my text, the text of my label will be my contact first name and my contact last name. And since the view is changed, your UI is recalled every time the state changes, you don't need to use bindings or something like that to listen to changes. Each time the value change, your UI is re-evaluated. So you can just simply set it directly. So it's easier to understand. And as well, you don't need the converters. So you can just put the value like you want. And instead, for example, I concatenated the first name and the last name. But we can think of bigger conversion. So for instance, you want to invert a Boolean, you just put not which is the equivalent of the exclamation mark in C#, just to invert a Boolean. Or you can even have bigger functions. So if I take another example, sorry for that. If I take another example, in the style here is a converting function that takes an integer and will return a different value for each part. So you don't need converters like you would in xamarin.forms. You can just simply set the value. So that one part, and like we saw, if you want to listen to updates, to commands or to take if I take this one, the command here is a bit different than what you would do in xamarin.forms. So you put a function to it, and Fabulous will take care of either applying it to the event behind, or to convert it in the I command to set it to the property.
I see. Yeah. So like in the two examples, the one thing of combining the first and last name, it just automatically handles it all for you. And then here, yeah, you normally have to create a command, have an async command, do all this stuff, but it's just a function that's going to dispatch that increment count. Correct?
Yes.
It's very clean.
Okay. Next, I wanted to speak about yes.
So I was just going to chime in. Yeah. So there's this kind of clean separations in the model, the programming model. Like the asynchrony, it happens in that, not in the view. You don't trigger off asynchronous stuff in the view. You send the message, and then the update function handles creating those commands. So you kind of know exactly where asynchrony is kind of introduced into your application, and exactly you can quickly analyze and see the exact set of conditions that happens under, and then what messages those can arise. And so a lot of the model is about being able to analyze the correctness of the kind of control logic as just through, because it's all represented as information and data.
That makes sense. It's often when you're kind of handling like events, a button click, data entry, sometimes you're processing data, and yeah, that asynchronously sort of often bleeds in and meshes in all over your.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It sort of blends in all over your application, so it's really nice to see that really clean separation.
Yeah.
And so it's important for unit testing, like we saw last time, since that asynchrony is put elsewhere. You can just test your UI without having to await a potential asynchronous method. So it's a lot easier.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. And it's also a really good example because, that type of application, even just to look at something from file new to like the contact application, that's an application that many of us have built. I've built many a times in my life, or at least that pattern, right? That pattern of here's a bunch of data moving around and seeing how that flows. It's a great example.
Okay. So one last thing I wanted to show you is how to call Xamarin Essentials or other external libraries. So like we just said that whenever so for instance, if I tap the email message, I don't have to support it, but yes. Okay, so it will send a message called email tapped, which will try to check if the model needs to be changed. So here we just click the button, so the model don't need to be changed. But instead we will do a command. So here we ask to perform the try compose email async message, so function. This is just declared up above. And here it's a pretty standard function that do asynchronous call. So here we have a try with to check for error. So it's why the message was displayed. But then we just need to call Xamarin Essentials directly without doing anything particular. So that's one great thing with Fabulous is that since it's F# and .NET, you can use any library available on Nugget and use it directly without changing anything. The only moment you will need to do something specific with Fabulous is when you write, when you want to use xamarin.forms control you want in your UI. So, for instance, if you take the Fabulous weather, we have the pancake view. We just add the package we want, and then with a little code that can be automatically generated, we add support for the pancake view inside our application, and we can directly use it in our view. And it was somewhere. Lost it. Oh yeah.
There it is.
So yeah. So you just with this little wrapper, we can use existing components in our Fabulous application. But everything that is not UI, you can directly use it without doing anything special.
Oh, that's very nice. So yeah, all of Xamarin Essentials, any of the bindings, any of those great third-party plugins that are out there, just immediately pop them in with no work. That's great. And then, like we showed earlier on the last one, the pancake view, sort of that automatic generation, if you will, which is really nice too.
So, okay, so we can launch the app. So here it is with the pancake view behind. So I did not hit the temp threshold that changes the color, but it's there. If we want to write ourselves our controls, or if you want to write renderers or effects that you would do in xamarin.forms, you can totally do that. So if I go to the Fabulous Contacts app, which is this one, we can see that. So here I have two controls that I've done. So here it's just a bordered entry that adds a border color, which is itself as a border entry renderer. So that's exactly the same thing you would do in xamarin.forms. You would have the entry renderer on the platform and the custom type in your shared project. So everything is exactly the same. And the only thing that remains is to write this famous wrapper to make it available on Fabulous. So here we have the bordered entry we can use in the edit page. We are for entry, this one. Okay. Oop. Somewhere. Oops, here it is. So you can just do that if you want. If you have your own renderers and everything, so you can use anything that xamarin.forms supports. You can use it directly in Fabulous, just with little wrappers if you need it in your UI. But you're free to do anything that Xamarin supports.
Very cool. Yeah, it's great that you can just easily extend all the things that you know and love are there. But I really like the construction here is very, like I said, clean. So it seems to be my word of the episode is very clean code.
And since the code is basically just a Xamarin.forms application, it also means that you have access to any tools available out there. So if you want to, you can build on App Center, you can build on Azure DevOps, you can use the Xamarin profilers, you can use all the tools that are available out there.
Gotcha. So anything that you're used to already it's already just going to kind of work, including those libraries, DevOps, everything like that. Very cool. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to see full applications from end to end, beyond sort of that file new project, and also just really understand how all the components come together once you really get into a full application doing custom work using third-party libraries. Really awesome to kind of see it end to end. And we'll put all the links in the show notes below. Before we go, anything else from you, Don or Tim? Anything else like that?
I just want to say a big thank you for having us on the show, and it's just great to be here. We look forward to being back sometime in the future, or maybe some other people in the F# community as they use Fabulous, maybe Faisal, who I mentioned before, or some other people to talk about how they're using Xamarin and Fabulous in practice and all the interesting things to come.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and as you're updating, as xamarin.forms updating, love to come back, see all the progress, anything new, hot, and I'll reach out to some people as well. I love that TensorFlow project. Very, very cool. Well, Tim, Don, thank you so much for coming on once again. We'll, of course, put all the show notes down below, all the links to all the projects getting started, and to the last episode. So if you missed it, definitely go back and watch that. It's an excellent episode. But I think that's going to do it for this week's Xamarin Show. Until next time, I'm James. Thanks for watching. Hey, James here. Just wanted to check in and thank you for watching this video. Now do all the things that you want to do, such as like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell to become part of the notification squad. While you're here, check out all these awesome videos that I've already recorded. Click on that thing. Click it. Watch it. Do it.